welcome back for another podcast, another episode of our last 30 podcasts about life, death, and everything in between. Today, Cesar, we are starting our 3-part series in celebration, right? In recognition of 1 year of doing this podcast, this humble, as we say, garage effort, right? It's just a couple of guys trying to have an impact on the couple of people that listen in. We are not Joe Rogan. We're not the big dogs. We're just big dogs, man, trying to have conversations with each other. And sometimes when we're lucky enough, we get a guest in.
Absolutely.
Right? So in preparation for today's guest, Cesar and I were talking. I said, we got to do something big for our 1 year anniversary. And then he just started smiling at me, and I said, "What does that mean, Cesar? Who you bringing in? Elvis Presley? You bringing Tupac on the screen again?" I was like, "What are we doing? How big is this?" And he said, "Just let me work on this, man, and I'll tell you if I can get it done." Well, every time he says that, he's been able to get it done, and so he sends me a text. He said, "I need you to call me." Oh, that's a serious one right there. Listen, just put it in a text.
It's either good or bad, right?
Put it in a text, brother. He said, "Just give me a call, man, when you get a chance." I said, "All right, cool." He said, "You remember that guy that inspired us? The whole reason we do everything we do?" And I said, "Yeah, man. Dr. Cruz." He said, "Dr. Cruz is going to be our guest for that 1 year anniversary." And I said, "There's no way, dude. Ain't no way." And I said, "How? How did you do this?" And he said, "I asked." And I said, "Legit. I mean, that's a pretty simple question and an even simpler answer. I asked." And so if you're listening today and you're having that anticipation or that anxiety or just the inability to make that decision, like we talked about our topic yesterday, just ask. If he can't do it, if the person can't do it, they'll gently say, "Man, I'm busy that week. Maybe another day." Or they might say, "I'm not interested. It's not my thing." Or every once in a while, they might just say yes.
Absolutely.
And that's who we're welcoming today, Dr. Cesar Cruz. He joins us. He's on the road, man. He's just been so kind. And so, Cesar, is there anything you want to say? Because, this guy inspired us before we let him just get loose.
Yeah, before we let you introduce yourself and start dumping knowledge on us, the main inspiration for the Los Higher Ed homies was after your presentation in 2018 at UTML Summit. That's where you planted that seed in us. That's where we started talking a little bit about more empowering our community, empowering our students that we were serving at that moment. The organization finally came into fruition late 2021, early 2021. And then we were able to see you again in UT Summit in 2022 with the organization established. I know we have a couple pictures of that day that are pretty cool. We'll post them on here for you guys. But again, we've been following your journey. We've been following what you're doing with the Homie Empowerment Network, the schools that you guys are building, things like that. All the change and the movement that you guys are creating in Cali. Obviously, we're not as big as y'all. We're not as big as the movement you guys are creating, but we're trying to make our own waves down here in Texas. We're trying to make our own little movement, trying to create our brand, try to bring in more people into it. We just had our first inaugural summit a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, man.
We had about 70 people attending. Again, grassroots effort. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, guests, hosts, all of that. But yeah, we'll let you take it away if you want to give us a little introduction of who you are, what do you do, and then we can go from there.
Oh, brothers, man, it's such a pleasure to join you. I'm in Chicago right now, but coming by way of East Oakland, California. I just want to respond to some of the things I heard y'all say. Never been compared to Elvis before. Y no canto, so good luck with that. I'm a big fan of Tupac. May he rest in peace. But thank you for that kindness. I don't know if I'm gonna dump any knowledge. I hope I don't dump some pedos on y'all. You know what I'm saying? Pero I'm so excited to be here with y'all and to know that we connected, almost a decade ago, and to know the kind of work that y'all do. They say that comparison is the thief of joy. And no need to compare to anything. What y'all are doing is so critically important. I'm thankful that you're doing that work in Texas, because someone from Califas has no clue what it's like to be in Texas. The beauty of Texas, the challenge of Texas, the amazingness of the people of Texas, and then the battling of the racism of Texas. So every context matters. Everything that we do matters. And so to know that y'all are higher ed homies, and that y'all are trying to connect with other higher ed homies and have these conversations that we don't normally get to have, or when they have it, it's with people that don't look like us. Man, of course I had to come through. And so I'm excited to platicar con ustedes, convivir. I hope it's okay that we mix a little English and Spanish in there.
Sure.
I'm learning both. Ahí andamos. And
We still
so
do. So we're good.
it's so I'm not sure how to introduce myself, but I'll try, and I'll try to be brief in this part. My name is Cesar Cruz. These are my abuelos, que en paz descansen. This is my abuelito Don Ángel. This is my abuelita Socorro, que en paz descanse. They raised me about 2 hours south of Guadalajara, Jalisco, in Juchitlan, Jalisco, Mexico. And I always like to say I come from great wealth. Like I was very wealthy growing up. And it isn't the kind of wealth that maybe this society values, because we didn't have electricity, and we didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have a television. Pero we had so much love, so much cariño. My abuelita, oh my goodness, she shielded me from my father walking out. She shielded me from when my mom left me when I was 5 years old to cross the border to come to the United States. And so even though in some ways I was abandoned, I didn't feel it because of these elders. And now they're ancestors. I owe it all to them and to my mother, who worked really hard to reconnect with me. I journeyed to the United States, to Compton, California, navigated those schools. I got really lost along the way. And 5 some odd decades later, I'm just trying to find myself. I became an educator, and I hated school, so I didn't know that I was going to go into education. Man, y'all, I've been married 23 years, and I don't know if you could see it. This is our wedding ring. It is a phoenix, and it is an owl. My wife is the wisdom keeper. She's the owl, and I'm always trying to have that rebirth, so a little bit of phoenix energy. And we're raising 3 poemas. We're raising 3 children, Amaru, Olin, and Quetzali. And so I'm a community member. I'm a child of the Great Spirit. I'm not going to tell you my sports teams, because then y'all going to boo me up out of here. Pero I love sports. And I can honestly say I'm thankful to be alive. The theme of what y'all cover is life, death, and everything in between. That's heavy, because for a long time I didn't want to open the door of the thought of the conversation of death, but it opens it whether you're ready or not. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to go any direction you want to go. But that's maybe the best way I can introduce myself. That's what I got for y'all to get us started.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And again, if you're listening, you're starting to see why Cesar and I were inspired, going on, again, 10 years ago, right?
10 years, so.
10 years ago, this guy was not even 20 yet. I mean, he's closing in on 20. And I was in my mid 40s when we first met. And the point is that at any age, you can be inspired, and at any age, you can inspire. And so I hope that if you're listening, you know that it's reciprocated inspiration. We started this again, as we told you, talked a little bit about the death of Cesar's father. He went through that process, healed. Healing was a big part of that, the way he knew how.
Yeah.
And years later, I lost my mom during COVID, and Dr. Cruz, I'm gonna be honest with you, I had an earned doctorate. I was an Army veteran, and I had a family, and they loved me and I loved them. So I had a tool belt of everything I needed Versus if I compared myself to Cesar, like, well, he was a young kid. That's why he went through that. He was just a young man trying to figure it out. And I'm an older man and I have all the resources available. And the pain hit me the same way. And the loss of a parent, the loss of a family member, the loss of life affected me in the same way that it affected him. And I say, the reason I say earned, doctorate, and veteran and family is because in my head or to other people, brother, you have all the tools available. Why did you struggle?
Yeah.
Well, that was a personal difficulty, and that sometimes even becomes public, you know.
Yeah.
And so I leaned on this young man at a time that I didn't have a whole lot else to lean on, only because I didn't want to worry my wife, man. I didn't want to worry my children. I didn't want anyone that I loved to worry about me in my pain. And so I could go to Cesar and he could be not judgmental the way I was to him. And so that's when we started, after that, grabbing lunch and dinner and drinks and more drinks and some tears in hotel rooms at conferences. And that's how we formed this group. And so for us, you planted some seeds in us to reach out to each other and begin that healing process.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, if I remember correctly, again, it's been a long time, but 2018, the presentation that you gave that day was talking about unpacking your past, unpacking what you were carrying, the difficulties, the things that you struggle with. And that's what we're trying to do with the Los High-Red Homies. That's what we're trying to do with the conversations that we have privately first. I think this all began having these conversations privately, at a hotel room after conferences, whatever. But we saw the impact that it was having on each other, that we wanted to bring it out onto other people. We wanted to bring it out to the public, to be able to talk about it, to be able to get men specifically to talk about mental health, talk about their feelings. We just did a series about relationships not too long ago. Men don't talk about relationships, especially as much as in depth we went in those 3-part series, talking about relationships. We don't tend to be vulnerable. So that just has led to where we're at now. And to begin our questions for you, I think one of the biggest things that we'd like to ask to begin with is, how did the homies empowerment come to be? How did you begin to start that, and how has it grown since? And then we'll dive into the actual, our last 30 questions here in a little bit, but we want to get a little background on that for us, please.
Oh, thank you, brothers. You know, I want to respond to where y'all led, but I will wait. But it's heavy because before I go to talk about homies, y'all don't know how to do small talk. And I love it because, you know, we're in the first couple minutes and you're like talking about death. And it's so necessary and so healing. And so I thank you. I thank you. And we'll go there when the time is right.
Sure.
But you're asking me about homies empowerment. So about 18 years ago, it was, so I'm messing up my numbers, you know, but this is my 34th year as an educator.
Okay.
Ay Dios. And about 18 years ago, things in Oakland, California were looking really terrible, in particular for Latino youth. Latino youth were involved or were impacted by 2 major gangs. In many parts of the country, you hear the red and the blue. In this part of the country, it was the red and the black. And those were the colors that distinguished them. Some of them were norteños, others were border brothers. And it was now the deaths of 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds. I'm working at a middle school and later a high school. And every few months, I'm going to a funeral. And it just seemed like that movie Groundhog's Day, where the same day is happening all over again. In the back of the chapel, I see a lot of kids who are kind of getting high and crying and angry because their friend has been killed. They're young. They're 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And then I see the jefitas in the front crying. And there's different photos. There's the photos of the young man when he was like 5 years old and 7 years old in T-ball, and then all of a sudden he's now 12 or 13. He's got a grill piece in his mouth. He might be throwing up a sign or not throwing up a sign, and you saw the trajectory change of the young man. And I sat somewhere in the middle. I wasn't in the back with the little homies, and I wasn't in the front with the moms. I was somewhere in the middle of that chapel, and I'm like, there's got to be something different. And while that's happening in school, we're suspending kids for fights. We have zero tolerance for knives and guns. And to a certain extent, I understand it. I understand why we don't allow weapons in school. But we never really ask the question, why does little Johnny pack? Like, why does he carry a knife? Or why does he got a gun? We just say, you got a gun and you got to go. And that was happening on my watch while I was serving in leadership roles at these schools. And it wasn't sitting well with me. On the one hand, kids are dying. And on the other hand, we're expelling kids. And what the heck am I doing? I just felt like my life's work was part of the problem. I was part of the problem. And during this time, I had some young people who said, hey, Mr. C, we're having a little kickback. You want to come? I'm like, nah, bro. Like I love you, pero boundaries. You know what I'm saying? I'm your maestro. But no, there's gonna be carne asada and this. Don't even trip. And it took a lot of because I support my students. I'll go to their quinceañera. I'll go to a cumpleaños. But a kickback is different, you know. And so I resisted that a lot. And I went to a couple of backyards, and what I saw really surprised me. And so I started getting an entry point into maybe what some people call a gang world, or what happens behind the scenes when it's not glamorous and it's just homies kicking it with homies, but in gang life. And I describe it like this. And then y'all may have heard this, so don't give it away, you know, if you've heard me share this before. But I talk about sort of seeing young people have to wear a certain color, and they might have to sell product out on the street, and they got to be loyal, and there's a ceremony to bring them in. And everybody thinks I'm describing gangs, but I'm always describing the Girl Scouts, because the Girl Scouts, they got to wear a certain color. They're pushing that sugar on the block, selling them sugar cookies, that early diabetes, you know, to fundraise. And they got to get jumped in, and there's a ceremony, and there's a sense of belonging in the Girl Scouts. But we celebrate that, but when young men and young women get the same needs met in the gang, we call them urban terrorists, we call them hoodlums, we call them thugs, and then we use this language to demonize our little primos and primas who are trying to find their needs met. So what I realized is that, hey, there's something about this gang that's meeting the needs of kids in a certain kind of way. And what if, this was the first what if of many what ifs, what if our schools were more like gangs? So instead of like gang prevention, what if we did gang enhancement? Because what if gangs are just second families, or fraternities or sororities, or tribes? Doctor, what you may have gotten from the military, as you had a band of brothers or a band of community, someone else may have gotten from a street organization. And if they're doing illegal things, maybe we eliminate the illegality and the illegal things, but maybe that isn't all that they do. And when I was in the backyard, I realized the naming ceremony matters. I'll tell you one more story, and I'm sorry that I'm being long-winded.
No.
Can I tell you a little story about graffiti?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Sir.
So as I was seeing and understanding some of the graffiti and some of the tagging that was happening, I started to understand it differently. You know, in our neighborhood, they call it vandalism. So when you tag, you vandalize. Pero if you pay for the tagging, so if you're Corona, if you're Budweiser, if you're McDonald's, and you tag, they call it advertising. Because you put a little feria on a billboard, and nobody wants to see that billboard. Like, we're inundated with corporate graffiti. Pero they get away with it because they got a little bit of feria. And when the youngsters tag, I noticed they tag 4 kinds of things all over. I've been able to visit Texas. You know, I've been able to be at Dallas and in Houston and Austin and San Antonio and other parts of Texas también. And when I see tagging, it's very similar. The first kind of tagging as a youngster wants you to know their name, their placazo. Like I matter. And sometimes it's the name Cesar, or in my case, sometimes it's Sea Dog, right? You know, like that became that name. And I think I kind of matter, and I'm trying to find a place where I matter. And so I want you to know my name. My name matters. Like, say my name. That's the first one. Luego, we're trying to have pride in Dallas, and not just Dallas, but the barrio in Dallas. Like, what part of Dallas am I from? And so I'm proud of my block. I'm proud of my neighbors, and I'm proud of my barrio. So you might see me tagging the name of my barrio. And I want to show my pride, just like, you know, when you go to colleges and one college wears one color and another college wears one color, and they have sweaters and hoodies. They're proud, you know. It's the same idea. The third kind of tagging is a youngster writes the word free, Free, like libertad, free their best friend, free their tío, free their jefita, free their pops, because they've been locked up. And so they're constantly feeling the sense of one of my family members is locked up and locked away, and I miss them. And I'm having a moment where I miss them, and the only expression that I have in this moment is to tag free, because I want their freedom. And then the fourth one is something that's very near and dear to your heart, which is rest in peace, fill in the blank. Because they just shot my 13-year-old best friend who knew everything about me, and I'm in mourning, but I don't know how to mourn as a 13-year-old. Y'all struggled in your 20s and 40s to mourn. Imagine the 13-year-old mourning when we say, you know, just get over it, or you're lucky it wasn't you. And you had all of the tools in your tool belt, and it was super hard. Imagine living that as a 13-year-old. So our students and our young people were living it in a large number, so much so that the Discovery Channel made a documentary about us, and you can find it. It was called like the Oakland War Zone, you know, back in 2008 and 2009. And so I realized that, like, we have to do something different. When we look at graffiti, we literally have to see the writing on the wall and notice that it's not just vandalism. It is a kid wanting to be seen. It is a neighborhood wanting to be proud. It is freedom for our people, and it is constant mourning and constant healing that needs to happen. So I realized Homies Empowerment needed to be born as a place that understood young people, understood gangs, and was a place of second chances. That was our beginnings in 2009, and it since has grown tremendously.
Well, you know, Dr. Cruz, you talk about when the examples you give. I was processing at the same time, and you're right. When the military, the reason young men were so attracted to the military back in the day, it was only open to young men, right? So I use that example. And when I was in, there was not a whole lot of women, but they were badasses. I will tell you that. But the whole reason, the whole concept behind it was brotherhood, sisterhood. The whole concept behind fraternity and sorority life is brotherhood and sisterhood. Yeah. The whole concept behind everything you're talking about. And I can even fast forward into academia. The first year, as you're a freshman, you're Fred the individual. Okay? That's my name. Put your name down. It's CWID, whatever it is. Your campus-wide, student ID. And your next one is you're talking about, they give you the sense of pride. Yeah. All right, go Tigers, go Bulldogs, go Lions, right? And then you have, even in our university, every university has a sign, right? Ours is the L. UT. Like, hey, everyone, you know, if you throw it up and you're not from UT, you're going to have problems if you throw up that you're from UT. Like, you graduated from, oh, you're not? Why are you throwing it up then? Oh, my nephew graduated from there. Well, baby, I don't give you the right to throw up the UT. Me, I'm a Lion, so we throw it up like this, okay? The same example in that level 3. Free someone. For us, it is that the advocacy component. Hey, now I'm working higher ed. It's not right for me to do this and not advocate for others. It's not right for me to not bring everyone up who, I'm up here, we're doing well, Cesar, but it's not right for us to sit back, watch the sunset, and be like, we've done well. Done well, baby. You better help somebody else up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part, when you said rest in peace, that's what we do when our alumni pass away, right? It's the same thing. We had donors, people who gave. I just saw on social media this old coach of mine was phenomenal coach. Rest in peace, Coach Moses, man. And back in South Texas where I'm from. That's what it's about. And if you leave that legacy, Dr. Cruz, people are going to throw it up for you. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to leave a legacy. Not for us, not in our name. But there's pieces of that. But it's for the families. It's for our moms and dads, for our nieces and nephews. It's for our children to say, as they did for the coach yesterday, as they did for the Pope yesterday.
Yeah.
The Pope passed away just yesterday, and they said, or a couple of days ago, and they said his legacy was that he advocated and fought for the poor, the marginalized, and everything. And how can that not touch your heart? And so every example you gave is for us hits exactly on what we do, just reframed. It's the marketing piece. Is it tagging or is it marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same thing, baby. I didn't ask for any one of it, but you paid. And so that, man, what a phenomenal point that I don't know that a whole lot of people view it that way. It's no different than smoking a joint or smoking a cigarette. One is legal, one isn't. I'm just saying, like, if you look at the history of why one's legal, why one's not, or why is one said, viewed as or I'll even throw it as a cigar. Cigar, if you smoke a cigar, you are a refined man. Okay? You drinking that bourbon and have that cigar? I don't know nothing about cigars. But if I sit outside my backyard and I smoke a joint or somebody else, right? Yeah. Then now look at you little stereotype kind of thing. And so I hear you on all of that. I think our listeners who listen up, our homeboys, our family members, they hear that point as well. Mm-hmm. It's framing, it's reframing. Absolutely. And how you view it. You know what I mean? 100%. And educating people in that process. So thank you for that.
I think that's a good segue in reframing and talking about that for our next question that I had. And again, well, I'm going to refer back to a lot of your presentation because that's what inspired us to be here and inspired us to for you to join us.
And Dr. Cruz, don't feel obligated to answer my questions. Yeah. Go the route you want to take because I want to hear what you have to say. We just get excited and then afterwards you're like, dang, we interrupted him. Like, so we're trying not to interrupt. Just educate.
Just take this where you want us. We're just posting a little scenario. So I know you talked about forgiveness and that F word and how that F word took a different meaning afterwards. Can you describe a little bit how that forgiveness transformed into healing and how that healing is today and how you're experiencing that in your life? I think it's an important topic that we don't necessarily talk about as men either. That journey, we all have a journey. We all have a path that we're taking to be where we're at. Some might be easier than others, but we all go through struggles. We all go through barriers. We all go through different stuff. So that transformation to forgive, to heal, to be, one of our other friends says, be better, not bitter.
Yes.
How has that transformed your life, your journey as a leader, as an educator, as a speaker, as a father, as a family member, as a community member?
Heavy questions, man. We cover big time over here.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a journey, and I think that the first thing I don't want to do is to judge anybody because I love that slogan, be better, not bitter. Pero sometimes we need to be bitter because we need to feel what we're feeling, and we need to be in the bitterness, and then we need to kind of walk that feeling through and that emotion through. And sometimes when people give us advice, what we say is like, yeah, but they're not in my shoes. Right. It's easy to say that, and to prescribe. And so many of us, we prescribe, but we don't listen to our own prescription. And so I want to be careful not to come on this talk, this podcast and be like, hagan esto, and I do none of it. And,
For sure.
a lot of people, they have advice para todo.
Yeah.
But you see how they live their life, and you're like, I don't think you're listening to yourself. I don't think you're listening to the advice you give. And
Yeah.
so, F words are important. And so I want to spend a little bit of time on the first F word.
Yep.
And because when someone genuinely feels like F you, there's a reason for that. And
Yep.
in my case, I really felt that towards my father. I felt that towards my father because he abandoned my mother, he abandoned me, he hurt my mother, he hurt me. And I got sick of seeing those commercials where like, hey, you want to toss the ball around? Well, who the hell am I going to throw it to? I barely got a glove, but if I throw it, there's no one on the other side to catch it because my jefita doesn't have time to toss the ball with me because she's working 6 days a week in a factory. Another F word, the factory. And F you to the factory. And I'll explain that in a little bit because the factory took my mother's best years. 6 days a week, my mom worked at that factory. And then on her day of rest, she went to go clean rich people's houses and F the rich people. And why the rich people is because we live in a world that okays trillionaires and billionaires when you don't need that kind of resource. If we shared, everybody would be okay. But I have so many relatives in Dallas and South Texas, in Califas that are living under bridges, mi gente, that they don't even have running water. So many people that don't even have a bed to call their own. And then we're okay with a billionaire class. F that too. And so you mentioned the Pope. Who washes the feet of refugees? Who washes the feet of people, And so if you're going to follow someone, biblically, wow, that's powerful. May that Pope, an imperfect man like everyone else, may they rest in peace. But back to the F word. We have a reason why we're angry, or we have a reason why we're disillusioned. But I had a pastor tell me in my 20s, he was like, that F you is eating you alive. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're getting angry, your voice changes. As soon as you talk about your father, you tense up. So even though he left you when you were 2, he's still leaving you at 24 because you haven't let it go. Oh, I got angry. I was so angry at that pastor, but I was angry because he put a mirror to my face.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he left me a long time ago. Later, I learned he committed suicide. And then, I learned that when I was 21. They said it was a car accident, that it was alcohol, but I know what it was. So then I wrote my father, the other F word, father, I wrote him a letter at age 21, and I wanted to tell him all the things he missed. And it took me a while to realize that what the pastor was saying was so powerful that when you have the right to be angry. But when you carry the anger, it actually becomes a toxin. And it starts to create enfermedades inside of your body. And it starts to develop as cancerous cells. So all of a sudden, now I can't look at another man because every time I see a Latino man, I think of my father, and now I'm judging him. And now I'm assuming that every Latino man is like this, and they're not. They're absolutely not. Every human being is their own individual. But then I start to grow a darkness inside of me. Now I can't trust adults. And so what I realize is that the forgiveness is for my father, but it is also for me. And to be able to be like, ¿Sabes qué, Dad? I want to thank you. I want to thank you because you helped to give me life. You and my jefita gave me life. Thank you for that. I have some of your DNA. I have 23 chromosomes. So there must have been something really beautiful about you. Thank you. And I especially want to thank my jefita for it. And I'm sorry that things didn't work out for you. I never found out what happened. I don't know why you left. But you know what, Dad? You stopped abusing me. And you stopped abusing my mom. I want to thank you for that, Pops. And I hope you're proud of me wherever you are, because sometimes I'll hear those songs like Dance with My Father or just other songs that just hit hard, and I don't know why they hit hard. It's just something in my DNA and in my chromosomes that is still unresolved, right? but those songs get to me. And so now I got a new F word for you, Pops. I forgive you. May you rest in peace wherever you are. If there's a next level, may you be well. You know, descansa. And I'm all right. And guess what, Pops? Now I'm a dad. I got three kids. I got Olin, Amado, and Quetzali, and I'm there and I play catch with them. You know, and I take care of them. Maybe you couldn't. So I'm gonna stop judging you. Because part of my forgiveness, to be real, I'm gonna stop judging you. Maybe you couldn't play catch with me. Maybe no one played catch with you. Yo no sé. But
That's
you mentioned, Cesar, that the F you to the forgive you goes on the path of healing. You're absolutely right, hermano. But for all of us, it's going to look different. And here's the thing. Is some of us try the bottle, right? And so we drown our sorrows in the bottle. I'm not judging it. What I am noticing is that in my barrio, we have 153 liquor outlets in a 5-mile square radius in the form of liquor stores, restaurants, bars, and gas stations. And so I'm wondering, City Hall has to give a permit to sell liquor. Why would they put over 150 liquor outlets in a 5-mile square radius, but I can't find a counselor who looks like me, a therapist who looks like me, a real healing center that looks like me, schools that look like me? Why? So I think it's a setup. And what I learned in my own personal life is that I couldn't drown the pain of the F words. And like I drank it and drank it and drank it in my early teens and my early 20s. And it just came back the next day, but with more problems and a headache. And then I had lost money and then I started impacting my liver. So if the only medication you have is the pisto, I get it because it's on every corner. I get it. It's a setup. It's a trap. But I want to welcome you to think about other forms of medication on your journey to healing. And if you're drinking every day, maybe you could drink 6 days a week. If you're drinking 6 days a week, maybe you could drink 3 days a week. And as you're starting to figure out what takes its place, it's finding out what will help you to kind of protect this corazón, and give you the palabras to be able to let it out, because you don't want to carry it forever because it becomes a cancer. So you can go to the baño and cry. You can go to the riverbed and journal. You can speak to somebody in the neighborhood. You can talk to these brothers. You can talk to me. But it's important to let it out in your own process of healing. And my process of healing has been a lifelong one, involving many, many tools that I've had to learn along the way. But I think one of the most powerful ones is transitioning the F words. And I have F words now, y'all. I say F this president. And I say it proudly because of what they're doing to demonize people. But then I got to turn that energy into, what am I going to do about it? What is my action plan? How am I going to make the world a better place? And so the F words will continue. And you know, we got to be able to take action to be able to move stuff, whether it's our own inner work or fight for the rights of all of our peoples.
Absolutely.
The forgiveness is a big piece, man. It's I think it's not fully understood, you know, that when we forgive others, it really allows us that peace in our mind, in our hearts. There's a level of tranquility and love that happens inside of our body if we could ever get to the point where we can forgive.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't personally get into not even local, state, national politics, because they don't care about me as a human being. But my community does. The students in the schools that we get to engage with, the colleagues I work with, I can have an impact there, man. And so, but the biggest piece, Dr. Cruz, that you talked about when you talk about forgiveness is forgiving yourself, man.
Absolutely.
Being able to forgive yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that process and give some advice to the young you, to the old you, to the you, and everyone listening?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to a place I haven't gone before, and we'll see how that goes, you know. And so that's a heavy one, forgiving yourself. About 7 years ago, I was operating at the speed of light, like moving really quickly, trying to tackle everything, trying to be, I hope, a really good husband. I hope a really good father, a good community member, running Homies Empowerment, trying to develop the school. There's violence in my neighborhood. People are getting evicted. People are getting shot. Stuff is going on with my greater familia. And I'm trying to just, según yo, do it all. And the check engine light starts coming on in my body, you know, and so in the carro, first the engine light goes and then the brakes go. And if you're like me, you're like, they're just warnings. And I was just going. And my body started to crash. And I needed surgery. So I had surgery on a part of my body, on my knee. And when I came out of that surgery, the pain level was so intense that I needed pain medication. I had never taken this kind of medication. It's the medication that's addictive. I forget what they're called, opioids. And so they prescribed opioids, and I only took them for that month. But they did something to my body where I didn't sleep, I kid you not, for 10 days straight. And so I was catching like 30 minutes of Z's and getting up all startled. And around the 11th day, I started conjuring up 50 years of my life and all of the mistakes I've made. So I'm remembering stuff that I did when I was 5, and I'm remembering stuff they did to me when I was 5. I remember the dirt I did, and then I remembered how they abused me. And then I remembered as a teenager the dirt I did, and then I remembered when I was in high school and I cheated on my girlfriend. And I remembered the mistakes I made, and I remembered the lies I told, and everything showed up at the same time. Every mistake I have ever made showed up. And what they taught me is that I'm the worst human being ever known to mankind. That's what they were telling me. And they're called ANTs, automatic negative thoughts. We all get them. We get them about different things. But they were drowning me, lack of sleep, on opioids, looking back at my life with new awareness. But see, I now have 50 plus year awareness, and I'm judging my 5-year-old self on things that I now know. And I couldn't forgive myself. I was just like, how could you at age 5 do that? How could you at age 15 do that? How could you at age 21 do that? And I hadn't had any awareness yet. I just knew that I had to end my life. I knew that I had to leave. I knew that I had to go. And I went through one of the worst storms of my life. And we could talk more about it later, like all of the things, because there's a lot to unpack there. But my point is that I had to go through a journey of forgiving myself. And here's the thing, is that sometimes when we make mistakes or do dirt, it's hard to look in the mirror. And I had to look in the mirror. I had to come to terms with what I've done. But then I also had to learn to forgive myself and be like, ¿sabes qué, César? Sí la regaste. You made a major mistake when you were 5 and when you were 15 and when you were 21, but you're not that person anymore. Even though it's the same you, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. If I'm going to forgive me, why wouldn't I forgive my father? Because didn't he have a 5-year-old version and a 16-year-old version and a 21-year-old version? What if I'm my father's twin? Chintrolo. And so then as I started to kind of come out of this major mental health struggle that almost led me to taking my life, where I couldn't see anything good about me, and I started on the process of the forgiveness of myself, it did free me up to begin to forgive others. Because then I realized, oh, how imperfect am I, and how imperfect the world is, and I never walked a mile in my father's shoes. Never. Don't know his context, don't know his upbringing, nada. And so why do I judge, right? Now I do want to clarify between, just because I haven't walked in a mouse shoes doesn't give a human being the right to, for example, there are some things that I wouldn't be okay with. Like, I wouldn't be okay with rape. I wouldn't be okay with incest. I wouldn't be okay with a lot of things that, just because I haven't walked a mile in my shoes, I have to know the difference between right and wrong, right? But I think what I realize is that I have to figure out a way to amend and correct what I could. So I started making phone calls, y'all. I started making a lot of phone calls to every human being that I could. I started with my wife. I started with everyone else trying to take care of me during that storm. And then I realized I did all that I could with the people that are living, and I've sent letters to the people that have passed on. And now I have this fresh start. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to repeat the same mistakes? Absolutely not. And how am I going to do things different? And so, man, forgiveness of self is really hard because sometimes we carry shame, we
Mhm.
carry abuse, we carry mistakes, and that guy is heavy. Like if you put on your backpack every mistake you've ever carried, you're not going to be able to walk straight into a room. You're going to
Mm-mm.
feel like a nobody. And what I've been told is we're not our mistakes, but sometimes I see the world through them because you said nice things about me at the beginning, but I have some lentes on. Let me see if I can get them really quickly. And
Yeah.
so I have these lentes, I have these shades, I have these lokes. And if on this side, I just see all of my mistakes. And on this side, I just see all the negative things they say about me. This is subtractive schooling. This is what Doctora Valenzuela says, that the more time most Mexican Americans spend in school, the more things get taken from them. So we're beaners, we're illegals, we're wetbacks, we're good for nothing. We have no history. We haven't contributed to society. So if my left eye sees that world, and if I believe the news, and my right eye just judges me and judges me and judges me, and I put these on, I can't forgive myself and I can't forgive anybody else because all I
Mhm.
see is I'm a good for nothing. So I can't do math, I can't do science, I can't be a father, I can't take care of my community, I can't complete anything because all I've ever been told and all I ever see is that I'm a good for nothing. And so I've had to learn to take these off, and it's not easy. How do you take off all the hatred of society? How do you take off all the self-hate? How do you take it all off? And then at first, como que no veo because I'm not used to loving myself. I'm not used to realizing that we made Machu Picchu and Tikal and Tenochtitlan and Chichen Itza, and that I'm a mathematician and that I'm a scientist and that I am nobody's immigrant. I'm nobody's illegal alien. Because if I'm in Texas or Califas, I'm Mexicano, and before that I was Mexica, so I'm indigenous to this land. So stop mislabeling. I'm not first gen. How can I be first gen when we built Tikal and Chichen Itza? I just don't know 7 generations ago who I am. And so I've had to like más o menos open my eyes to a new reality and realize they've lied to me. They've
Mhm.
told me things that I'm not, so I have to take off all of these labels. I'm not your immigrant. I'm not your beaner. I'm not your first gen. All of those are fighting words. All of those are disrespectful to me because they're not truthful of who I am in my ancestry. Everybody's talking about AI. Shoot, I have AI. I've always had AI. I've always had ancestral intelligence. Always.
Woo.
And so they just took it from me. And so my job is to get back to my ancestral intelligence so I can build Chichen Itza and Tikal all over again in South Texas before it was called South Texas. Because that name is only a couple hundred years old. But before it was South Texas, it had an indigenous name that hasn't been
Mhm.
taught to us. And how do we
Yeah.
reclaim our indigeneity? I got off track, y'all, pero y'all just woke me up.
No, man, that's you know what I was thinking the whole time when you were talking. Caesar threw a topic at me a couple months back about just what we talked about was the burnt toast theory. Like what if this one moment in time changes your whole life? What if being late changes everything about your predicament after that? And I wanted to propose to you, what if the pain your father went through as a young man that you'll never know, what if he held that in and protected you and did what he had to do, but he passed on a giant, an intellect, someone who had just enough bitterness to get better and make other people better. And had he stayed, Maybe he was afraid he was going to give you the same poison that someone had given him. I don't know how the world works, man.
Yeah.
But I like to think a positive perspective that I'm looking at someone that I cannot say enough good things about. And Dr. Cruz, had something else happened in your life, and had you been born in a nicer community with wealth and 2 parents and everything, would you even know about owls and phoenixes? Would you even know about angels and socorros? The
Yeah,
cry or angels.
oh man, that's heavy, right? That's heavy. And so I got to process that. I won't have an answer for you right now, but I think there's a lot of potential truth to what you're saying. I would have to explore that somehow, but I will tell you one thing that I do know for a fact is that my father's departure from my life, he played a central character in how I used to define myself and even how I've defined myself in this conversation. But he wasn't a central character in my life. My mother and grandmother was, but they always played backup roles. They were always there and I always ignored them. So I could give all that to my dad. He passed on this. He held on to that. I could, and maybe there's some truth there. But what I've been doing for a long time, missing my father, and so here's missing my father. ¿Dónde está? He left me. I couldn't see the abuelita that was there every day.
Yeah. Oh.
Every tortilla she made, every prayer she made, every bendición she gave, I never saw it. And I never thanked my mother for going to that fábrica and killing her body every day so we would have money to have food on the table. They were never central characters in my story. It was always what I didn't have, always through a deficit lens. Mi papá, mi papá, mi papá. You know what? No. I'm rich. I had an abuelita, I had a jefita, I still have my moms. And it's like they're my central characters. They're the leading roles, but I casted the wrong vato.
Right.
I told the wrong story. But here's the good news, y'all, is you could change your story. You could tell it different. So one time I was at graduate school, and this one mujer tells me, "Why are you always the victim of your stories?" Oh, that one hurt. Oh, man. I was so mad. And then I went home because she was telling me some truth. And I realized I could retell it as not victimized. I decide what stories I tell on this podcast. You can ask whatever you want, but I decide. So I've given too much power to my father who left. And I'm pivoting. I'm changing. And so let's talk about other things, because we have the power to change our story if we're able to see with new eyes the reality that was always in front, who has always been there that maybe we didn't appreciate. And the barrio was there. Some tias were there. Some coaches were there. You mentioned Coach Moses, que en paz descanse. Like, who are the people in our lives that have always been there, but that have never played a central role in the understanding of our story? I'm changing my narrative. I'm not abandoned. I was never abandoned. Like you said, I came into the family that I needed to come into to become who I've become. Gracias al universo. Y aquí estamos, and let's go.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. And and you talk about your mom and the impact and your grandma. We are going into Mother's Day here in the next couple of weeks, and for the couple of people who know me, they know the impact that my mom had on my life, just like moms have on people's lives ever. And in fact, I will say this: we're lucky. We're the lucky ones that we knew our moms, that we knew that love. There is nothing in this world like a mother's love and a mother's protection. A bear can't touch Caesar's mom. You know what I mean? A grizzly bear protecting her cubs don't have the power that Caesar's mom has. And it may not be physical power. I'm talking about energy, spirituality, love, and respect. And I had that too. And I would say that as a result, and I do try to live a positive perspective life. No, I don't talk about my dad in the same way I talk about my mom. And there's no disrespect to my dad, but my dad didn't have the impact, positive or negative, like my mom did.
For sure.
We're leading into Mother's Day here in the next couple of weeks. Can you share a special message for your mom that can you help us celebrate Mother's Day on as we lead to that, taking a break from the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Although I would say
It's
that a
still
mother's
pretty
love
heavy.
is among the heaviest. The load, you talk about the loads
Yeah.
they carry. They knew love for you before you knew love for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I love yourself yet. They was doing that love from day one, man. Day one. They know stuff about you that you'll never know.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for centering, moms, and I'm excited to get to celebrate Mother's Day, and I'm thankful that my mother's alive. Um, there's so much that I can share. When you mentioned Cesar's mom's strength, it made me think about this has become legend in our familia. And so, my mom accidentally ran over a dog, and we're on our way to somewhere. I'm little. I'm with my mom's, and she freaked out. And she's not the tallest person in the world. She got out of that car. I don't know how she lifted that freaking car. The perrito got out and survived. And then I was just like, well, who is this? Who is this? Who is this Incredible Hulk, right? She didn't turn green ni nada. But like you mentioned strength from like spirituality and energy and all of that. But man, my mom showed her muscles también. And so huge respect to my jefita. I think that I haven't really known how to appreciate the fact that she's been there through it all, because I think that I was sold by society the idea of a mom as nurturer, and nurturer means this. It means a lot of hugs. It means a lot of consejos. It means a certain definition of mom. And the mom that I was blessed to have is a mom that worked 70 hours a week and then would come home and work some more. And I didn't know
Yeah.
how to appreciate that as a kid. I didn't know how to understand that. And here's the thing, is that we as men, the way society has created our society is men are not able to carry babies in there. They don't have a womb, right? And so there's a lot men don't know. Those who identify as men, in comparison to moms. I can't know what it's like to carry life inside of you and to bring it to life. And I've only been able to witness it through my wife, but I didn't carry the baby for 3 births, and I've seen the magic that is giving birth. And then what I do remember is changing babies' diapers and getting poop in your fingernails. And then sometimes they pee on your face because they're not going to pee where you want them to pee. Yeah, something, right? But se queda el olor, right? And so my mom and your mom, whether you remember it or not, someone changed your diapers, and someone dealt literally with your stink. And then, like, I didn't learn to talk on my own. I didn't learn to walk on my own. I didn't learn to survive on my own. So much I have to thank my mom for that. When I was inside the womb, when you were inside the womb, we couldn't live without our mom. But then when we came out, they cut the umbilical cord, and that was the beginnings of independence. Of like, you can live without her, but you're learning too. And so, man, moms are givers of life. And some of us haven't had good relationships at all. There are some moms that for different reasons abandon their kids, and I don't know why. So not everybody has that same connection. So their mother is their father, or their mother is their grandmother, or their mother is their tia. However, there is someone who gave you life, and that alone is the reason why we're here. And so in different stages of my life, you know how we reminisce and we're like, man, I have a friend since childhood. And we get all excited if we're lucky to have a friend since elementary school or since middle school. Or, man, we're high school buddies. Or now that I'm in my 50s, we're college buddies, and that was a long time ago. The 90s was a long time ago. But the constant before all of that was my jefita. She's been there through thick and thin, through every friend leaving and coming, girlfriend coming and going, everything that's happened. My jefita has always been there. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you because you've seen me in my happiest moments. You've seen me hunger striking when you were scared. You've seen me in jail. You saw me when I was suicidal. You visited me when I got declared 5150 legally insane 25 years ago and I was locked up. And you were the one waiting outside of the freaking hospital just to see her son to make sure he doesn't die. You've seen it all. This is not a Hallmark card. This is the only way that I can say thank you. I love you. And what I hope, the way I hope to love you is to give to my children and to give to my extended family called this world the love you gave me. Homies Empowerment is an extension of you and an extension of Abuelita. That lo que me dieron, hay que dar. Right? And so I'm just paying back to you, Mom, and to you, Grandma, everything you've ever given me. And that is why I am who I am. It's because of you.
You know, you described the last scenario you described about the different periods in your life where you were thinking about hurting yourself and struggling with these issues. And there's a song we listen to in our home a lot. It's a rock song. I listen to all kinds of different kinds of music, but on that point, there's a song by Blue Octobers called "Hate Me Today," and it's talking about my kids were listening. They overheard me his and I said, "Dad, what hate me? He wants his mom to hate him?" And I said, "No, it's deeper than that. His mom was there for him." And all his most miserable, terrible moments of his life. And what he's saying is he'd love another moment for her to hate him. Because it means she would still be alive. It's deeper than that. I wish you could hate me today. Because you'd still be alive. So I share that with you because shit, that song hits me hard every time, man. The other thing I was going to say is that, when you talk about parents and abandoning and those difficulties, my twins are adopted. My last two children are adopted, and a couple months ago, my daughter asked me if they were abandoned, were they just left alone. I said, no, your biological mother loved you so much that she allowed us to be your mom and dad, but you were not abandoned. And I tell you that because that abandonment will destroy you as a child. That word. And I wanted my daughter, if she's going to deal with this, I want her to deal with it as an adult. Yeah. I don't want her as a 12-year-old. Again, because she processes differently. Her 12-year-old brother doesn't. I didn't want her to think ever that someone didn't love her. Mm-hmm. Actually, they loved you. That's why they made that tough decision. Yeah. Okay? I wanted to make that point. And the last thing I was going to ask you, Dr. Cruz, Cesar and I talk all the time about what is love. I want to ask you, what is love? And specifically, how do you define love? When I talk about it, I just describe 3 different kinds of love. The first time I was in love, it was my mom. I was an infant, and she was providing all the love and nurturing for me. The next time I was in love was with my wife. True love. And we just celebrated 30 years of marriage a month ago. But when I had my daughter, 2 daughters, that love took a whole different definition of protection and craziness even. The level of craziness of a father. Yeah. Well, she crazy and I'm crazy. Can you describe what is love to you, being a son, a husband, and a father? And that's my last question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I love the way you have experienced it and those 3 they're different, right? These 3 versions. My wife and I, we were listening to this song by Jodeci, I think it's called All My Life, and
Yeah.
it says,
Great song.
close to me, you're like my mother. Close to me, you're like my father." And we cringe a little bit, my wife and I, because we're like, it's a romantic song, but it's hard to connect romantic love with your mother and your father. You're like, ay Dios, no, no, let's separate the church and state there, right? And so I love the way you distinguish between the love from your mom, the love or from your wife or for your wife, and the love for your daughters. But for me, as I was listening to you, I would keep them the same in the following sense. It's just cariño. It's like deep care, concern. And so my mom showed it, deep care, concern. I have deep care and concern for my mom, for my wife, for my kids, for my sons and my daughter. And so I think, but that cariño, this is how it shows up. Because I also realize people have love languages. I
Yeah.
have a very particular love language. If you show up to my neighborhood and you're at Homies Empowerment and you start sweeping since nobody asked you to sweep, I'm in love with you. And, and,
Right.
and if you sit there and you watch me sweep and you're like,
Nah.
you're having your snacks and your cafecito and you're like, mira, that's really cool that you're sweeping and you don't join me in the sweeping, oh, I know you hate me because my
Yeah.
because my love language has I was brought up with maybe it's acts of kindness or ayuda or
Hmm.
get in the mix. And so
Yeah.
that's weird, right? Because how is that love? But it's kind of the
It
love that
is.
I grew up with. And I admire that in my wife. I admire that it doesn't come out as often in my children. But when it does in their schools. They're very like wanting to help at schools. They get a kryptonite when they get to the house. They forget what dishes and the laundry and the room is. But outside in the comunidad, they tell me,
Right, right,
"Man, you
right.
have amazing kids. They're so helpful." And I'm just like, "Are they mine?" Because they're not at the
Who are you
house.
talking about?
Right, right. No, no, no. Pero it's weird. I have to analyze this more. I don't know why one of my love languages is picking up a broom and sweeping, but maybe I
I
do
love it.
know is
I can
because I
relate.
always saw my mom do that. I always
Hmm.
saw my abuelita do that, and they train us. And so for me, pick up a broom. And that doesn't sound romantic. You can't put that on a Hallmark card. Pero it's this idea of like let's roll up our sleeves. So if we're at a conference and everybody
I think it's
leaves,
doing something together. I think
see,
it's the thought of here we're in this together. Whether we cleaning, struggling, fighting, or advancing, we're doing this together.
I
That's
think
what it
so.
is.
I think so. And it's hard on me that now my kids are all teenagers and so they don't want to hang as
Ooh,
much. So they don't
ooh,
want to
that's
do the
hard.
stuff together no more. Or now we're all living a lot on our phones, right? And so I'm
Yep.
just like, I'm having a hard time adapting that this is just a tool of communication. But in my era, we didn't have it. So I judge it. I judge it a lot, but it's just a tool, right? It's how you use it. And so, but I think it's caring. I think it's hugs. I think it's kisses. I think it's words of affirmation. Like
Hmm.
I do that a lot. Te quiero mucho. I miss you. Te amo. It's every now and then sending little notes. For me, it's getting them their favorite comidita. Yeah, my wife
Hmm.
is a big lover of Intocable. If she could, she would be from
Wow.
Zacatexas and she's all about Intocable. So every time Intocable is in town, we're going to the baile because I know
Nice.
that's her love. And so it's cositas like that. For my jefita, she loves soccer. So anytime I can get her soccer tickets, if
Nice.
Mexico's coming into town, or I don't want to say her team because I don't want y'all to get mad, but it's Chivas, and every time
Oh
Chivas
man.
comes into town,
I
it's
think
the
that's where we end the conversation.
ah, ya valió, ya valió.
We're in Mexico fans over here.
Ya valió. This is life, death, and everything in between. Ya valió.
Hey, and I'm an Oakland Raiders fan, so it stays there. No Las Vegas about it. Nah.
Oh man, that's powerful. I mean, we could keep going this conversation in a lot of different ways. I want to shift and transition a little bit into the actual message that we give for the podcast, or that we've done in the podcast, which is that last 30 days. Posing a question or a hypothetical scenario of we're at a hospital, whatever, and we get that diagnosis of you got 30 days to live. How do you react to that? One of the questions that we pose is, who do you tell? If you tell anybody, we've had guests that say, I'm keeping that. I'm just going to be intentional about how I act those 30 days, but nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to worry that those are my last 30 days. But for you, what does that look like? How do you spend those last 30 days? And intertwine into that, what is the legacy that you would hope to live for your kids, for your family, for your community members, for the schools, for everything, the work that you've been doing? What does that kind of legacy will look like for you?
Damn, y'all don't know how to do easy questions, ¿verdad? It's all soul work. I love it. I love it. I love it. When y'all sent me this, so it's the only thing I looked at when y'all sent me, and it stopped me in my tracks. First, the theme that y'all cover, this notion of having conversations with death and the final 30 days. And I realized in the moment when I received that message from you, I had to do this to it. And what I said is, I'm not going to overthink about it because it may get to me. I'm just going to pause it. I'm going to go live with the brothers and we'll have the discussion. So even though I knew it was coming, I haven't given myself permission to really think about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think I'm going to go in the moment for real. So I'm in the hospital and I'm being told I have 30 days. I think when it's that like, I don't know how they would know that, right? Because I think there's like human science, and then there is whatever controls the sun, moon, and the stars. And so what I mean by that is that human science is amazing, but it only knows a certain percentage. It's only figured out. It still hasn't even figured out how to cure cancer. So it hasn't figured it all out. It has its limits. So human science says you got 30 days. So there's a part of me that will receive it in the way science present it, and then there's another part of me who will go to the sun, moon, and the stars. Whatever energy controls that, I'll go to that energy to be like, Great Spirit, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But if I'm meant to have 31, hook it up with one more day. And I wanna try to receive it well. I think that I would probably have a moment of breakdown. I think that I would have a moment, not of but like a dang. And then I started thinking about, I did do this thinking, I'm like, do I have regrets? No, not in the way people think. I've been living my life for a while, like the song says, live like you were dying. So I've been living my life like that. I don't have a lot of regrets anymore. I tell my children I love them. I tell my mom I love her. I tell my wife I love her. I tell my community I love them. And I live my life with love. So I don't feel like I have to cram a whole bunch of experience into 30 days. I might do one locura. I might jump off a plane. I might do the skydiving thing, because that's one of, people have like a bucket list or whatever. I don't, but that would be kind of cool. But I think that the legacy part I struggle with, because there's this thing I haven't fully explored called the ego. And the ego, I think, is a part of the brain that really cares about itself. And I'm not, I fight that. I don't really care for that. So a part of me says, I don't care. Like I lived my best life, and people will take from it what they will. Y que Dios me los bendiga a todos. That's a part of me. But recently, my son, I'm very proud of this. My son got into his favorite university, considered one of the top universities in the country. He's 17 years old. He's a high school senior. He's our oldest. He got into UC Berkeley.
Nice.
And I couldn't afford to send him there. And it felt really gacho, because I started this conversation telling you how rich I was. I grew up with amor and cariño and cultura, and I'm still rich that way. But when you open up my bank account, it doesn't jive with how rich I think I am. I'm rich in cultura, I'm rich in values, I'm rich in what I stand for, and I can't even send my kid to college. And so for a moment, my ego got the best of me as a father, as a supposed provider, because they create a construction of what a father and what a mother is supposed to be. And one of the
Yep.
languages they use for a father is you're supposed to provide. And the reason I say it like that is because I never saw that role model. My father didn't provide at all. The provider was my jefita. The
Yeah.
nurturer was my abuelita. So I don't have that notion of like the father is the provider. No, I didn't grow up with that onda. And I fight that onda because not everybody has a father. So, but something creeped inside of me of like, I can't even send my boy to college. What the heck is wrong with me? And I suck as a dad. Like I just went through that train of thought for a while. And then someone hit me up and they're like, there's a lot of men that have money, Cesar, but you've prepared that boy. Oh my God, have you prepared him? The legacy he's coming into, the knowledge he's coming into, the cultura, the history, his voice, his power. You can't stop that kid. And that boy ready for college, and it's because of you and your wife and your history and your people. And then I was like, I can't give him $20,000 for his first year of college, but I guess I gave him something. So I think, like, to the best of my ability, I gave y'all what I had. I have 30 days to live. Que Dios me los bendiga. I got nothing more to give, except I'm going to keep telling you for the next 30 days, I love you. If I made any mistakes, forgive me. If I need to make some phone calls, of course, I'm calling my mom. I'm calling my familia. I'm letting them know. And can we party the next 30 days? Can we like celebrate life?
Sure.
Can we, if I could leave the hospital, could we go like see the ocean? Because I love the ocean. Could I die by the ocean? And then don't make a big stink when I'm gone. If there's because death is a part of life. It's a cycle. And so what we know, and we haven't talked a lot about death, and I think we should, and I'm about to go there, is that it's okay that I'm dying because I'm never that self-important, and we're just vessels for a season. And yeah, I know you're going to miss me, and I'm going to miss you too, pero remember me. Like now I'm going
Yeah.
to get all Disney Coco about it. Like remember me, right? And then I'll be around, right? And so but I think I remember my abuelita and I carry her with me and I carry her consejos. And then when I get sad, my abuelita talks to me as an ancestor. She's like, mijo, ponte ese suéter. And now I listen. So when I was a teenager, it went in one ear and out the other. And now I listen to my abuelita. So I'm going to ask my kids, when I die, and I know it's a hard thing to say, but it's a part of life. Remember when, my abuelita died? You remember when my best friend died? Remember when I've gone to different funerals and I've taken you when some of my students have died? There will be something like that. But you still have mom physically. You still have your abuelos physically. Cuídense mucho. Don't take time for granted. Take care of each other. And forgive me if I ever made a mistake, but hold on to the good stuff. And just know that you're amazing. You're dynamic. That you were not made in the greatness and the likeness of me. You were made in the greatness and the likeness of whatever made the sun, moon, and the stars. And they didn't make no mistake. You're beautiful. You're amazing. Live out your life's purpose, and you're going to be all right. And none of us are guaranteed forever. It's just a season. And so I'm ready to go. And if y'all are okay with it, the 30 days could be now, 30 minutes. And I'm
Hey,
ready. I'm
Dr.
ready.
Cruz, will you do me a favor when we're done?
See,
Will you go back whatever minute this is, and what that message you just sent to your family? Will you envision that message came from your father to you?
oh,
If you could rehear it just at your own time, man.
yeah,
And I think your father just sent that message to you.
could be,
Him.
or my abuelita.
Or yeah.
your ancestor. Let's say this:
Yes.
your ancestor.
Yes.
Everybody who has poured into you, everyone who has loved you, just sent that message to you. That's the irony of life.
Absolutely.
The message that you just sent was really a message for you, Dr. Cruz.
I love
That's
that.
what-
I love that. And here is where I just got caught preaching what I don't practice.
It's what we do, though.
Yeah, but it's not
what
for
we all
everything.
do.
It's not for, like, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at what I tell you I do. But in this case, I start off my plática saying, I want you to write your grandmother's name. And then I want you to write your grandmother's name from 7 generations ago. And we don't know it because they cut off our family tree. But she existed and they dreamed of us. The thing is, I don't have that awareness. And you just brought me to that awareness that some ancestors sent me this message. And this is where my preaching and my practice just met. Hey, hello. And now I get to practice a little bit more because I haven't been able to dive deep into the history of my past because one of my branches, my father, is a little off and I haven't wanted to explore because I've been afraid of what I'm going to find. So I tell other people to listen to their ancestors, but I only listen to some. I only listen to my abuelita or Tupac or folks like that. But this is beautiful and I will do that. And then I'll let you know, if we're still around, I'll let you know what came of it because I think something beautiful is going to come of it. Y a ver qué pasa after that.
I think I just, again, I just, as you spoke, I envisioned the young you looking up to the stars and our ancestors, your ancestors speaking to you and reminding you of the work you've done, man, of the inspiration you've provided because we're humble people, right? So it's hard to hear someone your age say you inspired me. It's hard to hear a 7 foot, 42 foot, whatever size this guy is over here say that you inspired him, but it's what it is, man. And I got bad news for you. You have to accept it. That's our blessing to you. You can't deny it, right, Cesar?
Exactly.
What's our last question, man? What we got?
Man. So
Wrap us up.
when we were talking about bringing you on and having this conversation with you, we knew it was going to be powerful. We knew it was going to be again. You've been dumping knowledge on us since minute one. You've been dumping knowledge on us since 2018, for that matter.
Yeah.
And we still have it. We go back and listen to it. One of the themes that kept coming up, and one of the things that we kept looking at was resilience. We just did an episode not too long ago. The universe is funny, and things happen for a reason. Things play out themselves how they're supposed to play out. We just did an episode a couple of weeks ago, or actually a couple of days ago on Saturday. One of the messages that we brought up, or one of the quotes that we found for that conversation that I came up with was, resilience doesn't whisper, it roars.
Wow.
When we were talking about your episode and having you on, that's what kept coming up as well.
Yeah.
That resiliency of again, we know your story. We're not going to give away your whole presentation.
That's right.
And everything. We've been there. We've listened to it all. A lot of what you've been through, a lot of the things that you've done, a lot of the things that you've envisioned have come from that resilience, have come from being defeated at times and having that rebirth, that phoenix re-rising to become the person that you're at. So can you give us a little bit just insight on that resilience and how do we go about it? How does one get the strength to be resilient? We all have our journeys. We all have our things that we struggle with. Shoot, I have resilience tattooed on my arm. Because that's a longer story, but after some difficulties in my life, that's the only thing that I had on me. Looking down on my arm and looking that, yeah, I have resilience. It's tattooed here for a reason. It's easily accessible. It's readily, I can look at it any time that I'm going through it. And it takes me back to those moments where I struggled as a person and as an individual, as a son, as a brother, as a nephew, whatever. Can you enlighten us a little bit on that resilience aspect of it?
Oh man, that's a heavy one. We're gonna need a whole other hour So we got to do a part two. But you know,
Yeah, let's do it.
I think about Texas, and I think about I was writing down some notes, and I think about learning a different history that wasn't taught to us. You know, I remember watching Walker, Texas Ranger, and thinking Chuck Norris is a hero. You know, this is like this hardcore guy and taking on injustice and all of this onda. Later to find out that no one lynched more Mexicans than Texas Rangers. And that devastated me. So when I think about, you know, that history, and then I think about the Ku Klux Klan and what they've done in our communities, no one had taught me about Jovita Hidar. And Jovita Hidar, at the turn of the century, in the 20th century, begins to take on the Ku Klux Klan and the Texas Rangers in Texas. And they're so scared of this powerful Mexicana that has a voice that can write, that the Klan shows up and they burn down where she was doing her newspaper, and that didn't stop her. I'm like, I'm Jovita Hidar. And then I think about, we got so disillusioned. I know you don't talk about the national politics because they don't care about us. That's how they felt in Texas. They're like, the Democrats aren't listening, the Republicans aren't listening. So then in Texas, they created the La Raza Unida Party. And they began in Crystal City and in other places, elect our people. And for the first time, we've always been taxed, but we weren't represented. So when I think about Jovita, when I think about La Raza Unida Party, I think about how resilient we are, what a fighter we are, and we don't just take difficult presidencies lying down. Even if they're burning down our house, we fight back. So I have the spirit of Jovita Hidar inside of me. I have the spirit of La Raza Unida inside of me. And the way my jefita would say it, I shared this when I was out there, but it's important to bring up again, is that when my jefita was learning more of her history from my abuelita, we would get these tools. We got this mapa, this map, and it had Texas in it, but it was a part of Mexico. And that map is not that old ago. It's not that old. It's only two grandmothers ago, just two grandmothers ago, my grandmother's grandmother, that Texas was in Mexico. And before that map and before the Spaniards, it was Mexicas. So Mexican comes from the word Mexica without the N, and Mexica is an Aztec. And so the language of the Aztecs is from Utah. So we've been going up and down for millennia. We've always been home. And I think when I realized that we have history, we have culture, we have roots, I realized we have something called intergenerational wisdom. And that made me feel stronger of like, why are you calling me an illegal or a wetback? Like, you don't know my history and you're miseducating me. And then when my passing on that map to me, and my mom was deported on 3 different occasions. And when my mom started learning her history and she realized the border that exists that tries to divide us, by the way, if you and I don't have $150,000 that I know of to go in space for 11 minutes, but if we went in space for 11 minutes and we came back down, you know what's silly? The silliest thing that the Earth does is borders. That's just ridiculous. So when you're coming down from space, there's no borders. It's one Earth. It's just the mensadas of human beings that try to divide themselves because we've always been a divided history. But there's no borders. There's no us and them. There's no Mexico and US. That just doesn't exist from an Earth perspective. But in Earth, where you live and where I live, there are real borders, and they're 20 feet high. But my abuelita would always tell my mom, ese muro es de 20 pies, pero tú cargas una escalera de 21. So that border is 20 feet high, but you carry an invisible 21-foot ladder. That's Jovita Hidar. That's La Raza Unida. That is the Brown Berets. That is Chichen Itza and Tikal. That is where you come from. You have always found a way out of no way. And so there's a field of science that has proven that we carry in our DNA trauma. Se llama epigenetics. I want you to look it up. Epigenetics. So if they've proven that we carry trauma Of course we carry wisdom. And the thing is, we have to tap into our ancestral intelligence. We have to tap into our intergenerational wisdom. And when we do, we're always going to find a way out of no way. That's our resilience. That's us thriving. And that's us really knowing our history.
That's big. No, that's powerful, and
It set off the alarms.
it literally set up the alarm. That's how
I was
powerful
like,
it
did the me gonna just show up? Because I gotta go, brothers.
They're looking for me.
We don't
They're
know,
looking for me.
but hopefully it's just a fire alarm. We gotta get out of here.
They're having drills or whatever, but we're fine.
We set it off, y'all. We set it off.
Listen.
That's how powerful these conversations are, man. Well, I know you got a little bit of time left, but we just wanted, again, thank you for making time for us. Definitely, we're gonna need a second part. We might have to come down to Cali and visit and see the work that y'all are doing down there, and just visit the school and the grounds that you guys are walking and the work that you guys are doing every day. Joining in with you guys, grabbing the broom and sweeping with y'all, getting in there, getting on the ground, and being able to provide the little resources or the big resources that we can bring to you guys as well down there. But once again, it's an honor and a pleasure to be in your presence and be able to get that knowledge and be able to be with you, and just getting to talk to you on a little bit deeper level as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Cruz. Thank you so much. I mean, it's an abrupt ending because of the fire alarms, but at the same time, it was an abrupt start. It was fire throughout, and now we're rushing out of this building, and that's how it should be. That's how we've lived our lives, after all. So thank you, man. I'm pretty excited to see what Cesar turns us into with editing and shares it with you, and just cannot share enough. Your knowledge is inspirational. And you have facilitated change and impacted whole lives, and we appreciate that. And we're just lucky that we've been a couple of the guys have benefited from that as well.
Absolutely.
And so thank you, and pretty excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Out the door. So we're gonna end. So we're going to end it as we normally. So thank you, everyone, again for listening to our podcast. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for being here. It was a absolute perfect guest to commemorate year 1 of our podcast, our last 30. Thank you all for listening. We're excited about where we're going to take this and the opportunities. Please like and share. And thank you. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
See y'all. Bye.